Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we are going to recap Fury, CFFC's grappling promotion, Fury Pro 1. We are going to preview BJJ. I actually don't have it up. We're going to preview Fight to Win 176, headlined by Juni Ocasio versus Carlos Pepito Oliveira. We're going to preview Big Deal Pro 3. The first time Flow Grappling is going to host that event. As always, in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host.
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. I messed up that intro on your first show.
That's okay. No
we got Miranda here, co-hosting this week. We're going to run through some stuff. It's a fun first show to start on because we are covering a promotion we have never covered before in Fury. But there's 4 matches we want to talk about on that, and we have some fun stuff to preview.
That sounds good.
So let's kick it off. A little bit of news. Road to ADCC is in 2 weeks, and I'm very, very excited.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see some of those competitors in a different rule set that they're used to.
Yeah,
because like Musumeci should be interesting to see how he handles.
I'm super excited to see like how he handles. I had a bug land in my hair there. That's what that was. How he handles like the ADCC rules, because he was announced as a invitee in 2019 ADCC, and he dropped out of it, and now he's like made a big commitment to doing 2022 ADCC. So it'll be the first time we've seen him. He's been doing a lot of
nogi too recently.
Yeah. And he's just started training in nogi out of nowhere. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a multiple-time gi world champion. Might as well start training nogi because I'm actually enjoying that."
Yeah.
Let's see. We have some fun super fights for that now. Kainan Duarte versus Mateus Diniz. We have champion versus champion. Craig Jones versus Lucas Hulk Barbosa. We got Ana Carolina Vieira versus Elizabeth Clay. Mikey Musumeci versus Gio Martinez. That's going to be a weird one.
That's going to be interesting.
We haven't seen Gio in what?
In a while.
6 months?
Yeah.
4 months, something like that.
It's been a while. And
the last match was the Paulo match, right?
I think so. I actually looked into this earlier.
It was Ocasio, actually. It was Ocasio on Who's Number One. Craig Jones versus Rotolo. So like Ronaldo Jr. So 2 Who's Number Ones ago was Ocasio.
Okay.
Let's see what else we got. Nikki Ryan versus Dante Leon. That's fun. That's at plus 77. So Nikki Ryan, I think, is going to have to lose a little weight to make under 7, or it's above 77, not under 77. That's a weird way to have that listed for ADCC rules.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Usually it's under 77. And we got Roberto Jimenez versus Andrew Wiltsey. We're going to preview those in more depth on next week's show, when that's actually a week away instead of 2 weeks away. Also this week, we had the announcement that BOA Super 8 is back. We haven't covered BOA in probably a year and a half. I think the last BOA was Craig Jones, DJ Jackson was on it, Stuart Cooper was on it. So they're back. They've announced some super fights for that. Should be fun. We cover not a ton of Australian promotions, so it's cool to have
definitely
BOA coming back and putting on events. Let's see. We got Sug in 2 weeks. We got Polaris in 4 weeks because that got pushed back. We have BJJ Bet, which has a stacked card. We looked at the card a minute ago for that. That is very exciting. Do you have that offhand or no?
No, I don't.
That's Lucas Hulk. That's Leandro Lowe. That's Wagner Hosha. That's Tanquinho, the Kusma Paharis of all people. We got Rafael Pagini. We got Micah Galvao and William Tackett.
Yeah. The last 2 will be interesting.
They're definitely the smaller guys of that group.
Yeah, but Micah's shown that he can compete 2 days in a row and completely destroy everyone, no matter what happens. So
we had just took the 185 bracket at Third Coast.
Yeah,
and then looked amazing versus.
And he
subbed everyone.
He did Fight to Win the day before.
Who's number one?
Or Who's Number One the day before? Yeah,
that was versus Tackett, right?
Yeah, and then he went there and he was the last minute. They added him in the last minute. He wasn't originally supposed to be on that event.
Yeah,
I forgot who dropped out, and then he went in for them.
He was like, "I'll go in there," and then you're like, "Oh snap, you're really, really good." We saw him in the week before at was it Up Your Game EUG.
Yeah.
And we saw him almost beat or like had a really close match with John Alves there.
Yeah.
So very curious to see how Galvao is going to look against either Leandro. Actually, it's Leandro Lowe's first nogi match since 2017 ADCC versus Craig Jones.
That's quite a long time.
So that'll be crazy to see. To see Leandro back in nogi, and then Wagner's at 185 now versus Hulk. Like, I'm super curious to see how they will bracket that.
Yeah.
I'm curious if they're gonna do like first seed versus 8th seed, kind of like traditionally they do, or if they're gonna kind of do what Third Coast does and go, hey, what's the most interesting first round matchups we can make?
Yeah. and then try to go from there.
Because I kind of like that. I think it's a really good style to start.
They definitely have interesting events because they change things up a little bit, which is good. And I don't know if you really, so if you like first seed versus like, I don't know. Thanks. I don't know. You don't really want your interesting parties to go out like immediately either. You don't want first versus. You don't want like Micah to go against like Leandro Lowe like first round.
I would totally want to see Michael.
Everybody wants to see it. We want to see that match, but I would rather both of them have more than one match.
You'd rather see it in the finals than like first round. Yeah. It'd be good. I'm excited about that. That's coming up on Flow in a couple of weeks here. What else do we got coming up? We got Felipe Pena announcing he's gonna go into MMA, which is one of those. I'll believe when I see it. And then, we both watched this fight. Talita Alencar'a had her first MMA fight. We usually don't cover MMA a ton on the show, but Talita's 5-time world champion through IBJJF. Yeah. Fought through a little bit of adversity.
Yeah.
In that fight.
She definitely looked like she was phased at one point.
Yeah, she got cracked, I think, in the first.
Yeah. Well, they only got into the first. It was like they only went to the end of the first round.
Oh, she choked her at the end of the first.
Yeah, it was the end of the first. I mean, they were standing most of the time. She got cracked a couple times, and then she went to. I have a lot of friends that joke around that say like all women in MMA all do the same head and arm choke to the ground.
They kind of do
because they kind of do. I mean, I completely admit to it.
We talked about it on the show. Yeah. We think it's potentially like the braids in the hair catches more than the men's hair.
Yeah, and she did the same. Like she got cracked a few times. You could tell she was kind of flustered by it. She hit her up against the cage. And she did that same throw that everybody does.
The WMMA, the women's mixed martial arts throw.
It is. And I mean, don't get me wrong. When I'm tired and I have to do like a ton of takedowns, that's the one I do because it's freaking easy. Like you just grab it and go. You know, you don't have to do anything with it.
You grip and rip the head. Yeah, and we'll get to the ground. Gets to the ground and then pretty quick, we're gonna get choke lock in like immediately.
Yeah, she got to mount, and then I thought she was gonna just like punch her in the face and elbow her a bunch of times when she was in mount, and somehow she gave up her back, which and then she just took her back and choked her almost immediately. So it was pretty fast once it got to the ground.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we expected from Alankar. Alankar typically starts really quickly, so it was cool to see her fight through a little adversity and then actually take a pro MMA win. Yeah. Because recently we've been covering a lot of like jiu-jitsu people making the transition over that are not doing as hot, so it's cool to see Alankar get a win.
It's nice to see her stand-up be pretty decent too. Some of the other people that have went into MMA from BJJ, their stand-up is pretty atrocious. So at least with time they get better, but normally their first couple, it's pretty
rough. You're like,
it's pretty rough watching.
What's your game plan? I'm going to take it to the ground and do what I'm world champion at. And the striking, I'm going to have to deal with that, but I'm going to get it to the ground and do what I'm good at. So that was fun. I don't think I have any other MMA news. We try to not do a ton of MMA. Let's see. Midwest Finishers has been announced. We have 4 grapplers for that. It's July 31st coming up. Zapatero is July 24th. BJJ Bet is August 1st. We are back into the regular schedule after this week into big events every weekend, every other weekend. So I don't think I have any other news? You got any other BJJ related news this week?
Not that I'm aware of.
Anything fun?
Not that I think.
Right,
Not that I can think about.
Cool. Let's move into the recap section. We're going to recap Fury. What is this? What is it even called? Fury Pro Grappling, their inaugural event, headlined by Danielle Kelly versus Sofia Amarante. I didn't realize Amarante was 40.
Yeah, she is.
She's out of Fight Sports.
She's same age as me, which is scary. I don't really like the fact that I'm almost 40, but
and you're watching the main event, it's like, she's fighting a 26-year-old. You're like,
I've done that before. It's not very fun.
So, I thought Kelly looked good.
Yeah,
overall, it was a very standard Danielle Kelly match from the beginning. I was really impressed with sort of how well Kelly tracked and sort of dealt with the guard of Amarante. Like she came in initially very not too aggressively. She kind of worked through Amarante, did a good job of containing the guard for a good portion of the match, and then Kelly started to sort of drive through, especially when Amarante went for the knee bar entries.
Yeah, she controlled her really well. She was doing 2-on-1 a lot of times, controlling where she was going with everything. Even when Sofia had, I know she had a knee bar at one point, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was just a knee bar, and then there were 2 transitions that were kind of that definitely she went inverted and went after things. And both times, I mean, Danielle Kelly didn't look like she was bothered by it at all.
No,
She
she
would
did really.
come right up.
Kelly did a really good job of actually hooking the outside of the foot in the actual instep or like back of the calf of Amarante to prevent the inversion. I thought it was a really nice little detail. We're seeing more and more that people fight off of the knee bar from that position, that like just straight up guard inversion knee bar. People, they were defending that knee bar instead of just using their arms to kind of hold their own leg or hold the leg from being turned over. They're using that other, actually the attacked foot, to scoop it behind the knee or the calf of Amarante here, and it was cool to see. And I think that's what Kelly used for a good portion of the time to defend it, and then was able to get in the like the head and arm variation there, and eventually get to the back and then get the choke. Overall, once sort of Kelly got into that head and arm position, she kind of fought for the head and arm a little bit there, and then kind of sat off, but eventually got to the back and got the choke relatively quickly. There wasn't a ton of hand fight from Amarante. Anything else you took away from the match that you want to talk about?
Nope, not at all.
All right, so let's move on to the next match. Danny Maira versus Robbie De la Rionda. We haven't covered Danny in a minute here. I think the last time I saw him compete was at one of the fight to wins in Philly. What was the most recent fight to win in Philly? Do you remember which one that was?
It was during quarantine, because I remember they were...
What was the most previous one before quarantine?
Before quarantine.
Might have been Juni on the card. I forget who was on that card, but I know we saw Myra.
There was somebody big on that card.
I think it was a brown belt back then. He's a black belt now.
Yeah.
He hits a really fun no arm triangle, and he has but what he does in a way where you don't see it very often, he throws his same side arm in the collar, and John Moraga on commentary, who I've talked to Jay Reguluto, the other commentator on the broadcast, and he picked it up, and I had missed it initially during the broadcast. He had the actual collar of the hand that was in the triangle, so it's a no arm triangle with his own hand in, because you really can't finish a no arm triangle without a hand in, right?
I mean, I've seen it taught that if you have stockier legs, that you're able to do the no arm triangle.
If you goon them, yeah. You can
but you basically
usually in a black belt match from the triangle position, like you see it finish like a scissor choke a lot of times more than anything, not like from the triangle
or like a
position.
TP. Yeah. Like the whole TP. I'm trying to think who.
Cisneros.
Yeah.
Josh Cisneros. That's like the most famous. That is the reason we started following Josh Cisneros at Purple Belt, was that fight to win submission of the year in 2018.
Since people don't realize that it actually will put you out.
Put you out and put him out quick
and
too.
Put you out really fast. Yeah.
So he had the arm in here, and I was like, ooh, that's a rough spot to finish. And I wasn't sure if he was going to try to adjust to something else, but he shot the no arm triangle here like he was looking for it as the finish, and he had that hand in it. He was driving the hand, and he did a ton of adjustments here, and it's cool because it's not a move that I see done a whole lot, and it was neat because he actually seemed to transition this to like not like a modified bow and arrow finish, but he finished this as a collar choke. What did you see here?
Yeah, I mean, I saw basically the same thing. I mean, generally speaking, if you put your hand in there and you have your hand, you have more control of them because they're closer to you. So it's easier. I mean, you also have your fist in there that you can kind of shove into their neck if you really want
to. Jam in the neck.
Yeah. So it makes it all a lot easier. But it definitely, it was a very pretty triangle. Yeah. I mean, I think triangles are wonderful. I love them. I hated them when I first started competing, but now I do appreciate them more.
Yeah, it's not a very common choke, but it's cool to see. So he finishes the no arm triangle with the collar in, and it was cool. I haven't seen that finished in forever. Next match, we have anything else on that?
No.
Next match, we have Nick Salles versus Dez McDonald.
And Nick Salles is his teammate, correct?
I think so. They have
I think
they have an instructional together, I think.
Yeah, I think they're both at Movement up in Philly, outside of Philly.
They are Philly guys.
Yeah. Outside of Philly, I don't know how. I've never been there before. I have a friend that trains there sometimes, and they're quite close to Philly. And I believe they're both teammates because they were back to back.
Yeah.
And
I'm 90% sure they're teammates because I think I have their instructional. It's like a lapel guard, very basic intro to like, hey, here's how to deal with lapel guard. And like last year on the show, I made an effort to, I was like, I'm going to learn how to talk about lapel guards. And so those guys are guys that I watched to like learn some very basic, like well thought out and well instructed passes and sequences, and like, hey, here's how to play lasso guard. And so you can talk about it correctly on the podcast.
Yeah. I'll have to work on that.
He just shoots a regular ass triangle.
Yeah.
Dez here, like pretty quickly into the match after the guard pull. And then Dez spends a long time, like with some really good defensive work here. He throws his legs over the top. He's pushing Nick away, he's pushing Nick away, and eventually they sort of roll to like almost like John Combs, who's reffing this match, is gonna reset them.
Yeah.
And then Nick kind of goes,
triangle or armbar.
Yeah, I want the arm, and like in kind of like not the middle of the reset, but it definitely felt like it sort of happened while they were resetting a little bit.
Yeah,
and Dez didn't really like argue it too much, but it was definitely definitely a little bit of weirdness.
It was a little bit of taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, you couldn't tell if like Dez had like stopped to move. And again, we talk about this every episode of the podcast. We talk about weird resets.
Well, and sometimes when you're almost gonna fall off the stage and they catch you or they redirect you on, they're sometimes making situations a lot worse than they initially were. In this situation, they saved them from going off the mats, but at the same time, probably wasn't the best situation for, it was a better situation for Nick, but Dez kind of got his arm caught.
A little bit. So that was that match. Nick Salles wins via armbar there. Next match, we have Nicholas Wiley versus Dylan Maslington. This was really kind of a straightforward wrestling versus bottom guard player match.
Yeah. And there was also a big size difference.
Yeah, Maslington went up to like 175 here.
Yeah, it was a 175.
Usually 160 or so, isn't it?
Yeah, he weighed in at 160. It was day before weigh-ins, so the numbers were definitely a little fudged if they cut. Nicholas Wiley had competed last weekend a lot heavier.
Yeah, I commentated his match at Edgard,
at least around like 195. So he came down to 175, and Dylan was maybe 160, which is a bigger Dylan than we've seen locally. So so there was a little bit of a size difference. Nicholas Wiley came out in the normal singlet that he's competed in quite a few times.
He works the takedown, scores the points.
I think if anybody comes out in a singlet, you immediately don't try to stand with them.
No.
I mean, why are you going to... Unless you think that you're going to have some kind of world-class
takedown. Because Homie came out in a singlet.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah,
okay,
you're like,
I'm guessing I know what you're going to do here. You're probably going to work for the takedown in top position.
Yeah.
So I'm going to concede here and not have to fight you in the position that you've come out in a singlet with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of what Dylan did for most of the match. He looked for the heel hooks. Wiley was really aggressive with top position. Sort of they would scramble up, look for the reversal, but Wiley would pretty much always, I think the entirety of the match, right, ended up on top.
Yeah, he did. And Dylan had some really good sequences where he was thrown at one point and went for an armbar on Wiley and was constantly hunting for his legs, trying to get heel hooks, trying to get him as soon as he could get control of him. But it was Dylan kind of trying to attack him and Nicholas trying to pass, and that was basically
the match.
The entire match.
This was what was interesting about this match is that because this is Fury's first event, I was really curious about what the judging criteria was for like who's going to win the decision.
Yeah.
Because there's no points, so it's like, okay, we're doing fight to win rules where it's like Dylan very clearly wins the match on submission attempts. He never had anything deep, but he was consistently going for stuff from the bottom.
Definitely.
Versus like the really heavy positional game that Nicholas Wiley played on top.
Yeah.
And Fury was like, positional grappling is what wins this. And so what'd you think about that?
It's definitely one way or another. I've been taught throughout my jiu-jitsu career that positional control is more important than anything first, and then you go after your submissions. So I've always been taught that you control, then attack. And it was very hard for me later on to then turn around and just attack without having a secure position. And so I definitely look at someone like Dylan with a lot of respect because he goes from positions that are all over the place, upside down in different positions, and just goes and attacks immediately and doesn't worry about, being controlled by a much larger person. The judging criteria, I would much rather go for the fight to win, like how many times you try for stuff.
Sort of those single point big advantage. Like,
being a little bit more Yeah, and slams and takedowns are still important. I think, in a game where you have somebody who's hitting a lot of takedowns, they should be weighed similarly, but at the same time, you're not trying to control or end the match by your takedown unless you're.
I think Fury's definitely going to is taking here, and again, this match was the big decider for me of like, okay, what judging style are they taking? It's like they're taking the MMA style of judging, where it's like, you're controlling the position of where the match is taking place. That is the most important criteria for Fury now. I'm curious to see if they will continue to do that. If we see subsequent events, which this one looked like it was fairly successful, it was very well produced. Yeah. I always love new events because I'm always curious like what judging criteria they have, what kind of rule set they're going to dream up for their event.
Yeah, true. And the matches weren't incredibly long. They didn't try to give us like 20-minute matches or something like crazy that then becomes just a stalemate.
If you are running your first event, especially with more local people, please don't give me a 20-minute match.
Yeah,
because especially if you're testing out new rules. That's never a good thing, because it's like inevitably it gets to like we get the substars where it's like we had Lovato and Cyborg. We need a 36-minute overtime. It's like, well, first to score. It's like, yeah, these are both world champion level guys. They're not gonna score for like a lot.
Yeah.
And then it was 36 minutes of Cyborg.
Was it Third Coast Grappling that also had? Was it Attack It match?
Yeah, they had Attack It match.
That was like 40-something minutes.
Was, I think
they ended it because they had to, because they were going to like run out
the venue was
going to shut down.
And Ryan McGuire, the matchmaker and president of Third Coast, talked about that match. He goes, and we learned a lesson there. He goes, don't have no title matches in the middle of the event. He goes, we learned.
I mean, and the problem there was neither of them wanted to change their game to win. Like they wanted to keep they had a very set game, and they were going to go forward with what their plan was. And if it wasn't working, they were just going to continue with it, and it was just going to be the stalemate. Right. No one would actually turn
but
it.
In a no time limit match, like that is not necessarily a bad strategy.
No, but
although if the match is going to turn into a time limit,
at some point you're going to have to change up what you're doing and go after something, or change or do something.
I watched the 90-minute Gordon and Keenan match live. I'm very happy we don't see a ton of no time limit stuff, but Fury did a great job. I think the matches were all only at the black belt level, like 10-minute matches.
Yeah,
which I think is a good, a little longer, definitely for black belts. But I think that the 10-minute mark is a decent mark, and you can get a reasonable match in 10 minutes. And even the Danielle Kelly versus Sofia Amarante match at the end, that had like I think a minute and 2 seconds left. So that was 9 minutes of action with Kelly like working Amarante, working on the bottom. So
yeah, definitely.
Overall good. Cool to see new judging criteria. Next match we had Andrew Cockle, finally didn't call him Koshal after this many years, versus Roman Napota? Napota. I'm not familiar. You're more familiar with him than I am.
Yeah, Roman.
He's a Ukrainian guy, right?
Yeah, he's a Ukrainian guy.
He trains with what's his name down in North Carolina?
Roman. Is it Roman?
No, who was on Fight to Win?
Yeah,
he was on the Fight to Win card.
Yeah, the name just fell out of my head.
So he's down in North Carolina.
Anyway, he was Ukrainian. It looked like he has been training for a while. With
black belt.
Yeah, with ZR team in North Carolina, and I mean he shut down Cockle's normal standing attacks.
And even the leg locks, he did a really good job of like clearing the legs whenever Andrew would go for the leg locks. He really just maintained a really dominant top position game for the entirety of the match, and I was really impressed.
He took his back at one point too.
For a portion of the match as well. Like it was overall a pretty dominant decision there. Anything else on that?
No, that's it. I was surprised not to see more kind of aggressive attacks from Cockle. Normally you see Cockle come out with, as I mess up his name like 5 different times.
Look, we called him the wrong name for like 3 years.
I know. I've been on cards with him, so I should know this by now.
He commentated it. He was like, he walked out with a chicken head, and I was like, oh, it's Wooster like Cockle.
Yeah, when we did CRC did that too. Yeah. So, but I expected a little more attacking out of him, but he was definitely being controlled more by Napata than I expected out of that match. I expected it to be a little more heavy with Cockle.
Next match, we got John Battle versus Miles Williams. This was 9 minutes of John Battle. I think you said it best. Like, this is the DDS back
it is.
system.
It is. If you've ever seen the video instructional of the DDS back take system of, you put your head up to their ear, you pull them close, you have, your left hand control their left hand, and then your right hand is your hand that's hand fighting, and also taking your thumb and trying to get your thumb under their neck while, trying to hold them and have positional control. And it was kind of that, and then you would go over, and then he wouldn't always have both of his hooks in. Yeah,
Battle really frequently switches the body triangle. Like, he grabs the hooks because there's no points.
He has crazy legs, too.
Yeah,
he has long legs, so he has the ability to do that.
Yeah, he switched a couple times, but really he was like, he didn't have to do a ton of switching of his legs. Like, he was able to keep Miles on pretty much the same side for a good stretch, like minutes at a time on the same side. Miles wasn't able to kind of turn his hips out at all. He did a really good job with the top end hand fighting.
Yeah, he was. I mean, his hand fighting was on point. He didn't really even when Battle tried to, do the whole thumb under your or thumb to your jawline and like slam your hand across, like he wasn't allowing that. He was doing a really good job hand fighting the whole time. Unfortunately, it was an entire match of hand fighting at that point.
Yeah, it was about 9 minutes of Battle on the back, and even at the decision, like Miles like points to Battle like as the decision read. It's like I probably know how that went.
It happens.
I also noticed at the end of the match they were throwing a little towel wrapped in electrical tape.
Oh, is that what they were throwing?
That's what it looked like, and it's like I think it's called a plum or something like that. But they were throwing that on the mat.
We always threw bean bags, like because I was a table worker for U.S. Grappling for a
they
while.
do the bean bags, don't they?
And we did bean bags, and I'm trying to think where they use it in different promotions. They use different things. Sometimes they use like a belt, almost like when two competitors come up and have the same color gi.
Yeah, they give you the competitor belt.
And they give you the competitor belt.
I forget what the name of that belt is called.
Yeah, I don't know.
They give you
one of my friends actually walked away with one from IBJJF,
really?
and she has one, yeah.
It's the green and yellow belt, right?
Yeah. And I've always hated that thing. Like, I didn't want it. Like,
it's an extra belt that they grab.
I already have enough problem keeping, like, my belt on and everything, and I just didn't want to deal with it. And I was always like, fuck, if I put that thing on, like, I'm going to lose. Like, this is just, like, I don't know. I had this idea in my mind.
That's why you bring a different color gi. Because if you have a different color gi, then they don't give you the competitor belt.
And the rule set says if you're a black belt, allegedly, in IBJJF, they will tell you to change your gi.
The only place they do that in is World Championships.
Oh, okay.
So they do it for the World Championships for the adult competitors, and you notice, I think, was it 2 years ago, Talita, I think it was Talita, had to use Rokako Yuasa's gi because she did not have an alternate color gi. They paused, and they I think it was Alankar and Rokako because they were one way.
Dude, that would suck so much. I would hate to wear someone else.
Yeah, in the final of a black belt world championship match, like no pressure there.
So I barely made weight once for IBJJF, and I had to use a friend's belt because I had a really heavy belt, and hers was like one of those real thin.
How close were you in weight?
So I made it right at 129.0.
Oh, Jesus.
Literally right on the line, and I had to get rid of everything that it basically weighed anything. I had a really light gi, and then I had my friend's belt, and we had almost gotten to the point where I debated like cutting all my hair off because I didn't know exactly how much that would weigh, but I really
would prefer not to do that.
Yeah, I would prefer not to do that, but I made weight.
Yeah, Miranda has very long hair.
Yeah, I have long hair. It wasn't as long.
If you listen to the audio show, you're not going to pick that up.
No, I have long hair, and I have long, thick red hair, and it's definitely a problem when I train. If anybody can ever tell me like what to do with it,
Rachel will cornrow it, but it's like so much work. She's like, braids it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
She just braids it and calls it a day. So
yeah,
that does it. For anything else on kind of like overall? No. Overall, the card was like produced great. I really hope that Fury continues to run more cards. Like I like seeing it. There's definitely
the prelim post-lim thing was a little weird.
They cut the broadcast off. And that was
they did
odd.
Because I know some competitors that were real late on the post-lim card. Had people watching for their matches and they were never shown. So they were saying their matches went dark, which was interesting. And then I think some of those same people had videos of their matches that were removed then because
Copyright.
Copyright. You're not allowed to put that stuff up, but so they just need to organize that a little bit more, and that is what it is.
But the production quality was great for the first event. I was happy that the mat space seemed big enough. They had John Combs reffing.
And their camera guys seemed to know what they were doing.
Yeah, I like that
they
too.
they didn't just show you both their backs for 5 minutes. They got in the action.
Okay, I want to see what the hands are doing, because we have a camera on the hands. Let's move to that camera. Yeah, it was good. I'm again, they're taking some of the production quality from CFFC. Again, it was at 2300 Arena. That's a lot of where CFFC's fights are locally in Philadelphia. I've been to a CFFC. Have you been to CFFC?
I've never been to CFFC. I've been to a Fight to Win there.
Yeah.
And at least one, if not two. And then they had another grappling event that came through at one point. It was a pro grappling. It was right. So it might.
We're talking about Philadelphia, 2300 Arena. It might have a lot of stuff.
It might have actually been something related to Fury or CFFC, only because it was the weirdest thing, because they didn't remove, so they had the cage still up, but they didn't remove the corner posts from the MMA cage. So the corner posts were still up. So when they grappled, they had to not hit the corner posts, because they were all still on the they were still on the corners of the mat.
I have to go find this now.
Was bizarre. Ellis was on it. Ellis won against. I'm trying to think who he won against. It was a while ago. I'm trying to think. Kochel was on the card. It was a really local event.
I'll pull the card and figure out. I think I know what you're talking about, because I saw a couple of years ago. I saw it.
Yeah.
I forgot that was a CFFC. That was CFFC.
I think it was, because I think CFFC was either the day before or the day after.
I want to say this was the day after CFFC.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah, and they just basically...
It was a Saturday card, and CFFC was a Friday or something.
Yeah, and they just basically took down the cage aspects of it and left up the sides.
I remember that.
And it was just weird. It was just...
So, overall, a fun event. What do you want to preview next? We're going to move on to preview for Fight to Win 176. We're going to preview Big Deal Pro 3.
Let's go to Fight to Win.
All right, on to our preview of Fight to Win 176, headline by... So, on Flow Grappling, they have a bunch of names listed here, and we think the headliner is not Wagner Rocha versus Davi Ramos. That's actually for Fight to Win 177, and it says that on the 176 page. We think the headline is Juni Ocasio versus Carlos Pepito Oliveira. Right now, Juni for the odds is a minus 250 favorite, and I think that's pretty reasonable. Juni's looked really good. I mean, aside from his match with Mikey, has looked unstoppable recently.
Oh, definitely.
His leg game has looked good. Even that match with Mikey, Mikey's been submitting everyone, and Ocasio, let me bang the mic right there, and Ocasio, didn't get submitted by Mikey, been Mikey's. When was the last time we haven't seen Mikey submit someone?
He went after his feet pretty bad. Yeah. There was a couple times where you watched Juni walk, and you could see a little definitely he was trying not to show that his feet were getting caught up a lot. But he's real fun to watch. I've always liked watching him. He's a New York guy. You picking
Juni here?
Yeah, I'm picking Juni.
Do you think by sub, or you think he's going to hit another Z-lock or another variation of a hip lock or something?
It would be nice. It would be good for him.
The last hip lock he hit was at Fight to Win, I think. So to see him hit another Z-lock would be really interesting. I think going into after the Mikey match, I think he's going to probably have a new fire kind of going into him want to get back into the win column.
Oh, definitely.
So seeing Juni take that would be, I think, interesting. Next match, we got Tex Johnson versus Gustavo Batista. This is an interesting match. So Tex is coming off a win over a really close win 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Versus Hulk. That really he essentially just won on a takedown and then a late leg lock attempt into the match. But it was a very, very, very slow match with both guys not really opening up a ton. Do you think Tex is going to take the same approach with Batista here, or do you think he's going to come out aggressively, try to invert on Batista? What do you think?
It would be a more exciting match to see him come out and be more aggressive and pull and try to go after his legs. Gustavo is also a larger dude, so I mean, maybe he just plays the same game. He knows that he can.
I'm curious to see if Gustavo's going to stay on the outside or not, or if he's going to like actually try to go through the guard. He's been pretty active, in 2020. But his last match was versus Zaki Bahanis at BJJ Stars 4 that he lost. But he has wins like over Max Jimenez, who's another big dude, choke from the back. Jake Watson, choke from the back. And I see Lionel,
so he might just
Dominic
stay to
Bell.
the outside. I mean, if he stays to the outside, he's less likely to get
Leg
locked. Yeah, I was trying to think exactly how to say that, but yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to inside pass on Tex.
Yeah, I'm just curious in the fight to win rule set. Like Tex has been super successful there because he a lot of what he does is like not work for the takedown. He just works for the leg locks and the inversions, and that plays really well in the fight to win rule set. I'm curious to see if we're going to see Gustavo be able to pass.
His like inversion to a takedown was what he did in the last match
versus Hulk.
Yeah, he did like an inversion to almost like a seated guard up to a takedown, and it was. I mean, it works. It's a takedown. He took him off the stage. That was when they both like flew off the stage. Him and the ref at the same time. Well,
and
Tex didn't, but
Hulk did.
But Hulk did.
Yeah, I'm curious about this one. I think if Gustavo takes this, like, if he decides to play on the outside and plays more conservatively, I think it's his to lose. I think Gustavo definitely has to get in a passing situation, but Tex is so hard to pass. Like, we've seen very few people like successfully for like lengths of time get around Tex Johnson's guard and like stay on top of him. And I think it's kind of the game that Batista wants to play on him. I just don't know how able he's going to be able to do that on Tex.
I don't know if that's possible.
And that's kind of why it's like I think Batista in any other rule set probably has an advantage. But in the fight to win rule set, just because Tex is going to be throwing up so many submission attempts and like on your legs and like forcing Batista to be on the defensive, and I think Batista's kind of going to
He's not going to be able to control him.
No, and he's going to try to do bent over passing. And I just think that Tex plays really well into that.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see not a similar match to the Hulk match, but for some reason I think we're going to get more, not passivity from Batista, but it's just definitely going to be slower.
Yeah. You
think Tex or you think Batista?
I'll go for Tex. Why not?
All right. And next match we have Shamir Chantre versus Orlando Castillo. This is actually really well matched, and I'm having a hard time picking this one. I'm more familiar with Shamir's game, but we've been covering Orlando recently, and for me, this one is kind of a coin flip. I'm not sure if you have any leanings either way.
No, it can go either way. It really depends on who can use the rule set to their advantage. I mean, everybody kind of knows how to play with it and how to get what they need. And
you got to go for footlocks late.
Yeah, but because if you go after a footlock and it doesn't go well, then you're in a really crappy position, and then you don't know what time you're getting back up. But yeah, it could go either way on that one.
So that does it for Fight to Win. That's all we have right now announced for Fight to Win 176. Let's move on to
no, you had a brown belt.
Oh yeah, Troy.
Yeah.
Night Pigeon. Troy Everett is
Night Pigeon's a great nickname.
Great. He's got the best walkout. Shout out to Troy Everett. Big friend of the show. Used to be on the crew for Fight to Win for years and years. Now he runs Novamente out in Colorado. He has a match this weekend as well on Fight to Win. So check out him and his walkout, because he won like the walkout of the year 2 years in a row for Grappling Rewind. And then we stopped doing it because he retired. So it's cool to see him back. Look out for Troy. He's always fun to cover and always fun to watch. Good catch. Thank you for catching my pre-show notes. So moving on to Big Deal Pro number 3. I think it's funny. This is a well-known Brazilian promotion, but it's been hard to cover. And now they're on Flow Grappling, so it's funny that we're getting the first event on Flow that we're covering is the number 3rd event. Do you want to talk about the heavyweight GP first or some of the super fights? What do you want to go with?
Let's go the heavyweight GP.
So in the heavyweight GP, we have Herber Santos, we have Eduardo Lopez, we have Gabriel Henrique, we have Guillermo Lambertucci, we have Harrison Pereira, we have Yata Bueno, we have Wallace Costa, and we have Marcus Ribeiro. I'm going to come straight out and go, I think this is Herbert's to lose.
Oh, to lose.
He should win this bracket.
Yeah.
But if we have Herbert show up.
Yeah, true.
But we just saw Herber Santos, what was it? BJ Stars 6 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Versus Gutenberg Pereira, and he looked good. He won that. He won a very close match versus Pereira that was slow, with not a ton of action, but he did kind of maintain top position, kind of worked his passing more, and was really more, the aggressor in that match.
I mean, some of the other gentlemen might come out knowing that he's definitely going to be the favorite in that Grand Prix, and just try to take his hat off.
I'm just not familiar with a lot of the other folks. We looked at a bunch of folks beforehand.
Yeah, I'm not either. But somebody who's brand new and who, not brand new. None of them are brand new. But
you love the David and Goliath thing.
Oh, I do.
You always want David to win. And I'm always like, I would prefer if Goliath
I love
win.
the underdog. I love the dark horse. I want the brand new guy that no one knows to come out and just behead the champion.
I think
and
that
then laugh about it.
I think that we get a return to form for Herbert Santos, and Herbert Santos does what he did in his 2018 black belt run and just runs through. I think that match with Pereira will kind of again. Herbert is such a enigma with even Howell talked about it in the commentary for BJJ Star 6 that like he's on or off, but he will explode. Like if it's not going his way, he'll quit in a match. And Howell said it on commentary. And I was like, that's bold.
Yeah.
But it's true.
It's
and
true.
We've seen him do
it's
it.
True.
We've seen him do it the past 3 years, or really 2.5 years. He
definitely.
Just it doesn't go his way and he quits. And I just think that how strong of a competitor he is versus this lineup. Like I think he's gonna the folks that are in this lineup, depending on how the bracketing goes, are gonna have a really difficult time putting him in a position to be on the defensive for any length of time.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that's where Herbert kind of shines the most, is when he can be on the offensive from the get-go, implementing his game.
And I think he can go into all those matches kind of having that idea that, he's
I am the front runner and I should do front runner stuff and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Kind of like old school Overeem. Goes in as like, I'm going to kind of blow this guy around and then I'm good to go.
Ubereem.
Back in kickboxing, he signed to Glory, and I'm super excited to get horse meat Overeem back, just because like I don't think Glory tests, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
I hope we get a return to form.
Oh, we should.
So,
dude, he was fun. Like back when he was Ubereem, he was so much fun to watch.
He's so much fun.
He really was.
Fun to watch now, but he was way more
he went to the UFC and got little, and then it was like not as exciting.
Yeah. So
I'll agree with that one.
I'm gonna take Herbert Santos here. You're gonna hedge for an underdog.
I'm gonna go for let's say Gabriel Henrique.
Bold pick.
We'll see. We'll see where we go from there.
We also have a bunch of fun super fights on the card. We have Leandro Lo versus Henrique Sassone. It'll be I think this is a gi match for Leandro, right? And then he's no-gi at BJJ Bet.
Yeah, it looks like there's only 2 no-gi matches on that card.
Good catch there. Good. I haven't seen Leandro in a little bit here. It'd be cool to see, Low back in form. We also have a match that I'm super excited about. Gutenberg Pereira, we just talked to him, versus Eric Muniz. I don't know. There's 3 Muniz brothers, and I always forget who fought who, because like we're just starting to cover them, and they're all like brothers, and they all kind of look a little similar. I think they're all black belts now, if I'm correct too. So
that's awesome.
It's this is a tough match for. I think this.
Well, it's not as bad as there's 2 purple belt brothers in Philly, the Lyons brothers that are twins.
Yeah.
And when
I've went against one of them, but I cannot figure out.
So at least they're not twins that are completely.
Is there John and James, right?
John and James,
they're both J names.
Yeah, they're both
twins.
J names, and they're twins, and they are very similar.
One's a little bigger, I think, right? One's a weight class up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and one's been training a little bit longer than the other one.
So I'm super excited about that. I kind of want to hedge Gutenberg after Gutenberg's run at BJJ Stars 6 in that GP, taking out Margali and like looking as good as he did against Felipe Pena, like, and even the match with Erberth 2 weeks ago, he looked good. I am still super high on Pereira, and I think that he has the tools to get it done. We just haven't covered Muniz enough for me to be super comfortable with his game. Okay. So I'm leaning Pereira here. We also have a really fun women's match.
But the other thing I always think about if somebody has training partners as brothers that are similar to them in size to train with all the time.
Well, you get the brother effect.
Yeah.
You get the
well, I mean, you get the
brothers,
brother effect, but you get so much of a more high level of competition because you have a brother who you're already competitive with.
The Rotolos
that are similar to you in size. Not always similar to you in size, but similar
Mikey
most
and
of the
Tammy
time.
Musumeci.
Yeah, and you have that little
brothers.
you have that little bit of like extra go.
The Mendes brothers.
Yeah, I mean so I'll go the other way.
You're gonna go Muniz on this one?
Yeah, I'll go Muniz.
I feel like you're going Muniz on like the basis of like he has a brother. He has two brothers. Like that's your thought process. Why? It's like he's got two brothers.
So
two brothers makes you good.
So sometimes that's how I am with horse racing too. Like horse racing, I'm horrible. Like I'll pick some random. I don't know.
So you're definitely the wild card.
I'm all about the wild card.
Next match we got. You got anything else on that one?
No.
Other than Miranda's gonna pick the wild card. We got Dulce Rosenthal versus Bia Basilio. I am not super familiar with Rosenthal, but there's a lot of Brazilian killers coming out of Brazil that I'm not familiar with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And recently seen a lot of the women's matches like, come out of nowhere that like I'm not familiar with this woman. Can immediately contend with
Rafael Guarez from Atos.
Geddes.
Yeah. She, I mean, I didn't know who she was until, I don't know, maybe
she just got black belt in like early, like
6 or 8 months ago. And then she was just destroying people.
She's like number one ranked
And then
right
I
now.
was watching her pans matches and I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't even, like if I went into Absolute and she was, it would just be a bad day.
That's why I'm super excited for a lot of the women's
matches
because there's a lot of like, and a lot of the Brazilian promotions are like coming up with women I'm not as familiar with, and they're putting against like Bia Basilio, where I'm like, well, I want to pick Bia because I'm super familiar, like world champion, like all in all, like one of the top in the world, but I've seen enough of these like unknown black belts out of Brazil where I'm kind of like, I'm a little less confident than I was before. It is Bia.
Yeah.
So I'm hands down going to pick Bia, but I'm really curious to see what Rosenthal looks like here because I've been surprised a couple of times in the last like 3 months with unknown, black belt women coming out and just like looking fantastic. Like Aaron Harp, her match versus Geddes.
Yeah,
like, a couple weeks ago was like, not familiar with Harp, and all of a sudden,
But was Harp straight out of Brazil? Wasn't she a MMA fighter?
I mean, you're that's not the point I'm making.
Yeah.
She was an MMA fighter, and not straight out of Brazil,
Yeah.
but like we're seeing more people come out of. We've not covered them on pro grappling stuff before.
I called you out on that.
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah. I just remember watching that match and thinking the same thing and
the hard match just made me like way less confident to pick unknown, like pick against women I'm not familiar with.
No, I'm all about unknown people, so that's fun. But yeah, I don't know about Rosenthal at all.
Next match we have Igor Schneider versus Ottavio Nalati. We haven't covered Nalati here in probably almost 2 years, so I'm curious to see what he looks like. Probably going to be real big and play some judo here, so that Igor Schneider's no joke either, so that should be a fun match. The whole card is good. Any other matches you want to touch on?
Let me look.
Oh yeah, that's a fun match. Servio Tullio versus Sasaki Bahens. I'm gonna go with Bahens here. Bahens has looked great recently. Just had a match with, I think it was Batista, wasn't it?
I think it was.
It was Batista at BJJ Stars 4. He beat Batista.
By an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really close match, but still, that was also a weird match. But Izaki's looked better and better. Excited about him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll go with him also. Tullio, I don't know enough. I don't know much about at all. I'm still learning all the more
more Brazilian names.
Yeah, the
Tullio's been around for
the Big
for
Deal
a while.
Pro and like the BJJ stars, and I know most of the people that have been out for a while. Some of the newer ones I'm a little more I have to do a little more research and look into them. But
should be a super fun event. I am looking forward to it. There's probably a bunch of other guys I'm missing. We have Demetrius Souza and Pedro Elias is on here as well. So it should be a fun card. Looks like it's July 10th. Starts at 4:30 EST. So I assume it's gonna run probably pretty late. Probably start at like 5 or 5:30 because we're usually on Brazilian time for these cards. But it's cool to see Flow adding more big name professional grappling
Oh, yeah,
events
definitely.
to the library because
And they're not horrible. I mean, they're not the best too sometimes. Sometimes their feeds aren't the most amazing, but it's still better than trying to find a feed on
better than doing a Brazilian pay-per-view because those
See, I've
are
never done I don't think I've ever actually
they're
done one of those myself.
interesting to get a hold of a lot of times. So I'm happy that Flow is at least centralizing the feed
Yeah.
because it's usually a more consistent feed once it gets on Flow because Flow kind of has some more
Regulates
infrastructure.
it, yeah.
Have a little more infrastructure, and so it's cool to be getting more big events. We have the 3 big events out of Brazil now. And we're missing is Copa Podia, and they have their own kind of thing running. So it's cool. We have BJJ Stars, we have Big Deal Pro, we have BJJ Bet. Those are like the 3 powerhouse events coming out of Brazil. And I think Ricardo Amendolia talked about this week, BJJ Big Deal Pro is like the last big event that was just Brazilian only. So now it's cool to have it on Flow.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, should be a fun week of grappling. I think that does it. Let's move to the outro section. And you got anything fun going on this week grappling wise?
No, training. I'm going to go do a photography trip on Saturday, so I'll probably take Saturday off and then go back Sunday. Hopefully not die on Sunday.
Nice. Where are you going?
To take pictures. I'm going to an abandoned church in Pittsburgh. So I do abandoned structures normally. That's like my photography thing. It's the only thing I do that's not grappling related or work related. So it's my other fun thing to do.
Sweet. That's a drive.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive out probably Friday night and then stay out in Pittsburgh.
I've done day trips to Pittsburgh for work from Baltimore, and it's that was one of my longest work days ever. Was picking up a truck in Baltimore, driving, working in Pittsburgh, driving all the way back in the same day, and I'm like, if I could avoid doing that again,
we've tried we used to have to go to the one facility that's out in the one jail that's out in Western Pennsylvania, and we would try to do that in the day trip, and it's like a 15 hour
it's just
day. Yeah, I mean, you can
but
bill for it and all that stuff, but after driving 4 or 5 hours out there, doing 2 or 3 hours in the facility, saying that they let you in and all that kind of stuff goes right. It's a long day. No one really needs to do that.
I'm not doing anything fun this week. We're just doing the podcast, and then I'm just doing continuing with PT for the back, which is getting better.
That's good.
Super slowly, but I can stand a little longer. I can walk a little longer. I'm in less pain now, which is awesome. So I think we're starting to finally kind of turn the corner on the back surgery. So
that's great.
Very happy about that.
Yeah.
But So what'd you think of the show? Have a
It
good time?
was fun. Yeah.
Definitely a trip, and it's not easy to do the first show as a brand new event we're covering.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of the huge names that we're used to covering.
I have to figure out everything a little bit better. Do a little more research and not completely not know what to say sometimes.
Yeah, it takes time. Again, I've done almost actually more than 200 episodes of the show, so it takes some time. It was not always this smooth.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Worse.
Well, you got anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. So that does it for this week on the Grappling Miranda. As always, I'm your host, Mange, I'm the co-host.
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Miranda. See you on the mats. Whatever that is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.